All right, let's talk therapy intensives. What do you do them for? There's a lot of different modalities and reasons to do a therapy intensive. And I know some of those things we've talked about, but I really wanted to spend some time today talking about the things that you might be addressing during a therapy intensive. Just as a brief background, a therapy intensive is in somewhat extremely extended session where you are really doing a deep dive on one, maybe two particular issues. That can look different from therapist to therapist. Typically, we're talking a session of 3 hours, maybe longer. Sometimes it's one day, sometimes it's multiple days. They can be done as a one-time thing, could be monthly, could be quarterly, but that is for another video. We're talking today about reasons why to do a therapy intensive, specifically what's bringing you in for that. One of the number one things I see with that is for trauma. When folks have a trauma history, whether it is a single incident trauma, something like a car accident or a natural disaster, or whether it is ongoing trauma, such as a childhood history of abuse or even background of just shame. And especially when I talk about my autistic and ADHD folks who didn't know they were neurodivergent until adulthood, there's a lot of shame and trauma that comes along with that needs to be worked through. Therapy intensive can really focus in on that and give you the time and space to truly address all of that traumatic background without having to worry about the daily things that come up in day-to-day life. Your change in work, your fight with your partner, all of those other things that, yes, are important, but we also need to address the trauma that's underlying that. When we can do that in the format of an intensive, it gives us time to really not only dig so much deeper, but also having time to kind of close things back up as we're coming back out of it. So we're not having to spend 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of a session getting into what we're going to be working on, maybe 15, 20 minutes addressing the actual trauma, and then another 15 minutes or so really kind of tying things up, bringing you back to the present and the here and now. We can really dig deep and stay deep and do really, really good work during that time. Another thing that folks have found beneficial for therapy intensives is anxiety. And, that's similar in some ways to trauma, but there's not necessarily something underneath. When folks are dealing with anxiety, a lot of times there appears to be a trigger for the anxiety, but in reality, it's these underlying patterns. Again, with the in-depth nature of an intensive, we can really dig deep. We can get to those underlying concerns, issues, things that are happening, and address the anxiety from a broad standpoint rather than, well, this presentation at work and this fight with my partner and, this new thing that I have coming up. We can look at really that underlying piece. And one of the other areas that I love, love, love to work with folks on with intensives is burnout. And I'm speaking specifically to my neurodivergent folks here, even those of you who suspect you may be neurodivergent. While there is a lot of work to be done in an intensive, there is also an incredible amount of healing that can come across. And when we're doing a therapy intensive to address burnout, we can not only spend a lot of time looking at identifying what are those areas of life that burnout is coming from? What areas are things that we can do something about? What are ones that maybe we can't? We can look at sensory needs and really come up with a good plan for you to get your sensory needs met, to have time to engage in those deep special interests that we know we all have, hyper-focusing in appropriate ways that are filling and not draining. Again, also comes into undoing some of that shame that comes with being neurodivergent in a world made for neurotypicals. So, those are just a few of the reasons that folks come in for therapy intensives, but really there's so many more. If you are interested in discussing if a therapy intensive is right for you, feel free to head on over to my website, fill out the contact form, and we can talk more about what's going on with you and how an intensive might be helpful for you. Talk to you soon. Bye.